Hey everyone, happy 2025 to you. So it's really quite simple. The more value you bring, the more marketable you'll be. In this video, I'm going to break down what I believe to be some essential C# and C# related skills you should focus on to stand out as a highly employable C# developer in 2025. So to be clear, you might only need to master a few of these skills to be considered employable, but the more you know, the more opportunities you'll have. Simple. Think of this video as an introduction, just a starting point. There are a lot of videos on this channel that can help you with the details and the hard skills you'll need in order to become a highly employable C# developer in 2025. I've included relevant links to free videos and courses below in the description of this video. I've structured this video so that it flows from the fundamental or foundational C# and programming concepts in general to the more advanced skills you can acquire in order to really stand out. Then we'll address that gigantic elephant in the room. Yes, AI, and how it may affect you as a software developer. AI augmented software development and AI functional integration, for example, integrating AI agents into a wider system, are two important considerations for modern developers. But let's start at the beginning, the very basics. Where does one start with learning C#? Well, you start with syntax. You've got to know how to speak the language. So, to learn the language, I advise you to firstly start by creating a basic console project and build a simple input-output app. The console project template does not come with the overhead of UI-related code integrations, which can help you focus on the C# language itself, the C# syntax. So firstly, just create a basic app that outputs text to the screen, like the traditional Hello World app. Then learn how to accept input from the user and output the user's input to the screen along with text from the application. So for example, your app prompts the user for the user's name. The user enters the user's name. Your app outputs hello followed by the user's name. And that's your first app. We've all got to start somewhere, and at this stage in the learning experience, when learning the foundational concepts of the language, you need to be patient with yourself and start right at the beginning. Build up your knowledge of the C# language step by step and gain kinetic experience, as it were. Build muscle memory using the C# language concepts to create basic code examples. Here's a basic outline of the C# language concepts and the order in which you can learn them. C# data types, variables, data type conversion, operators, if statements, for loops, arrays, switch statements, string manipulation, enums, C# methods, structs, classes, exception handling, and basic file handling. I would then try to understand the 4 pillars of object-oriented programming: encapsulation, inheritance, polymorphism, and abstraction. Remember, at each stage of this learning process, it is always best to apply what you've learned with practical examples. Once you are familiar and comfortable with writing basic console-based C# apps, the next logical step is to write an app with a rich user interface. The easiest .NET framework to use for this purpose is WinForms. So create a basic WinForms project. Developing a WinForms app is really quite simple. You can literally drag UI elements like buttons or a grid element onto a form and write your code logic within predefined event handler methods to build the functionality of your application. So for example, within a button-click event handler method, your code queries a relational database that contains a collection of client contact details and then populates a grid with the relevant data. So from the user's perspective, the user clicks a button marked Load Contacts. A grid is then populated with the relevant names and addresses of the user's client contacts. A simple app like this will get you started creating applications with rich user interfaces. This will give you a tactile experience creating apps with rich user interfaces. This is very easy to do using the WinForms framework. So at each stage of your learning process, you are being patient with yourself and slowly digesting the programming concepts necessary to become a proficient and highly employable C# developer. I would then encourage you to go back to using a basic console application to further enhance your knowledge of C# syntax. So at this point, you've grasped the basic concepts of the C# programming language and have familiarized yourself with how to build basic apps. So now it's time to get familiar with the advanced features of C#. This is where you'll take your knowledge to the next level and understand delegates, events, generics, async await task, link, attributes, and reflection. I would then encourage you to enhance your knowledge of object-oriented programming and understand basic design principles denoted by the acronym SOLID. But before we get into what SOLID is, if you like this video so far, please hit that like button. If you haven't yet subscribed, please consider subscribing, and please don't forget to ring the bell. Please share this video with anyone you feel may benefit from its content. If you'd like to thank me by buying me a coffee, you can do that through my Buy Me a Coffee webpage at this URL. It will of course be greatly appreciated. If you'd like to follow me on X, my username is @GavinLonDigital. So, SOLID denotes basic program design object-oriented principles. S stands for single responsibility principle. O stands for open-closed principle. L stands for Lishkov substitution principle. I stands for interface segregation principle. And lastly, D stands for dependency inversion principle. Once you've understood the SOLID principles, you can then advance your skills by understanding and practicing the implementation of well-known design patterns. For example, the singleton pattern, the factory pattern, the observer pattern, the strategy pattern, and the decorator pattern. And there are many design patterns that you can learn. By gaining experience creating code examples that implement SOLID principles and design patterns, you are learning how to apply your C# skills for not only creating useful functionality, but you are also learning to write extensible, maintainable, clean, reusable code that is also easy to unit test. These are extremely powerful programming techniques to learn. The next step I would advise you to take is to learn basic relational database design. Start by learning the basics of normalization. I would then learn how to leverage SQL Server on your local machine as a backend storage facility in the context of a basic WinForms application. Perhaps create a project using WinForms that queries a database for data that displays the data neatly within a grid on a form. I would advise you to learn how to build and maintain the data and database design using EF Core code migrations. You'll want to learn at least one commonly used ORM, Object Relational Mapping Facility, for retrieving, inserting, deleting, and updating data within your database. My advice would be to learn Entity Framework Core for this purpose. Entity Framework Core is a popular object relational mapping ORM facility commonly used in .NET applications. To progress, I would then create basic CRUD functionality within my WinForms app. This simply involves implementing a UI so that the user can use your app to create, read, update, and delete relevant data. So for example, your app could enable users to create contact details within a database, read the data from the database and display the data to the user, update the data of client's contact details within the database, and finally delete the contact data from the database. With each CRUD action, create, read, update, delete action, the UI must respond accordingly. So for example, if a client's contact details are deleted, this must be reflected in the UI. If a client contact field is updated, this should also be reflected immediately on the UI. And if further client contact details are created, this should also be reflected in the UI. At this stage, I would say you know quite a lot as a C# and .NET developer. You could get employed as a developer at this stage. So perhaps this is a good time to decide on what types of applications you'd like to develop. So if you want to develop cross-platform mobile or desktop apps, your next step would be to familiarize yourself with the .NET MAUI framework. If, however, you want to be a C# web developer, my advice would be to familiarize yourself with the Blazor framework. If you choose the web route, you'll want to make sure that you have a good knowledge of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript before you learn the Blazor framework. Note that with the Blazor framework, it is important to learn the new features that have been fairly recently shipped with .NET 8 and 9. For example, understanding mixed render modes and how to leverage them to create an excellent UX, user experience, for your Blazor apps. You could choose to specialize as a front-end developer or specialize as a back-end developer. However, this video is about becoming highly employable, so I'd encourage you to become a full-stack developer which means you are skilled in both front-end and back-end development. You'll want to understand REST APIs, both how to create and deploy them, and also how to consume them from client code. Once you are comfortable with these concepts, perhaps challenge yourself and create a basic shopping cart application. Once you have successfully implemented your shopping cart application, you are definitely highly employable, at least in terms of your knowledge. It goes without saying that you should understand and know how to use a commonly used source control utility. The most popular one is GitHub. My advice is to consistently upload key code examples to GitHub, which can then become part of your overall portfolio. This, in my opinion, is essential, as you can then easily show potential employers that you have the practical capabilities to implement useful and well-written C# code. Once you are a full-stack developer, the next logical step is knowing how to leverage architectural techniques that facilitate the automatic scaling of your application. For example, using the microservice architecture. So perhaps turn your shopping cart application into a full-blown e-commerce application that is capable of serving clients from all over the world. So learn how to divide your code up into small autonomous units of code called microservices. Learn the basics of Docker and Kubernetes so that your components can communicate with one another and be automatically managed, discoverable, and your components can be part of an overall orchestration. At this point, you are familiar with relational databases like SQL Server and relational database design. Associated with highly scalable distributed systems designed for availability and efficiency are also other types of database management systems, like, for example, NoSQL database management systems like MongoDB, which is also known as a schemaless database management system. So learning at least one NoSQL database management system will give you an advantage. Another advantage is learning how to use name-value paired database management systems like Redis. Redis is commonly used in the implementation of caching functionality. You may wish to learn about these types of database management systems and how to leverage them to increase the speed and efficiency of your systems, as well as the availability of your data. To simplify the development, deployment, and management of observable, production-ready distributed applications, you can leverage the .NET Aspire framework. The .NET Aspire framework is an important framework to learn and use for creating distributed .NET applications. Right, let's now address the elephant in the room. Hello. Let's firstly talk about AI augmented development. GitHub Copilot has recently added a free tier for Visual Studio Code users. AI-assisted development is one of the most significant changes to how coding will be done moving forward. Having predictive code and boilerplate code generation functionality at your fingertips can certainly significantly increase your efficiency as a coder. AI doesn't just affect how we produce code in the future, but also the overall requirements of our future apps. To remain competitive, our software functionality needs to seamlessly integrate with AI. There's a lot of hype lately about no-code or low-code AI agents. Agentic AI is certainly going to be a huge part of 2025 and beyond. However, they certainly aren't going to miraculously replace all software systems overnight. I do believe that as a software developer moving forward into 2025 and beyond, it will be important to learn how to create AI agents and integrate them into your existing systems. Your app can, for example, leverage LLMs like ChatGPT without your users being aware that the brain behind the functionality, as it were, is in fact ChatGPT. You can use, for example, Azure OpenAI to seamlessly leverage LLMs like ChatGPT to provide a 24/7 expert to your users through your software. A common example of this would be a chatbot being made available on your website where users can ask questions to your chatbot using natural language. And the response from the chatbot can be made in a human-like conversational style, providing the user with summarized data created from potentially complex and heterogeneous data sources. So, data from multiple sources like PDF files, databases, Excel spreadsheets, Word documents, you name it, can be consolidated, summarized, and presented to the user in a human conversational style. It's like the user has access to an expert 24/7. You can see that this type of AI agent could be used in a multitude of types of domains, legal, insurance, medical, etc., wherever deep domain-specific expertise are required. Azure offers many services that can be integrated into your apps, for example, AI cognitive services, vision, image recognition, facial recognition, and custom image classification, speech, tools for speech-to-text, text-to-speech, speech translation, and speaker recognition, language, various translation services, decision, for example, content moderator or anomaly detector for decision-making tasks. Search. Azure Cognitive Search integrates AI to help applications perform advanced and personalized search functionalities. So AI integration would certainly be something to focus on for more seasoned developers looking to remain at the cutting edge. Agentic AI is likely to be huge in 2025. Common developer projects of the near future will no doubt involve the creation of AI agents and integration of those AI agents into wider systems. AI is certainly where all the hype is at the moment, but there are other technologies that will no doubt impact developers moving forward. For example, IoT, Internet of Things, robotics, autonomous vehicles, 3D printing, blockchain development. Okay, and this one kind of worries me a little bit. AI-powered brain-computer interfaces. So, the overarching point is there is huge scope for C# and .NET developers in 2025 and beyond. But it is important to both know the foundational concepts as well as stay up to date with the latest technological trends. For example, Agentic AI. So you certainly can't go wrong in learning to code in 2025, especially learning a great language like C#. There are plenty of opportunities on the horizon, but you also can't avoid that elephant in the room. The nature of development is certainly going to change with the evolution of AI. But there will certainly be plenty of opportunities available for developers. Eventually, in the more distant future, I suspect that development will probably evolve into something very different to what it is now. But being rooted in traditional programming, as it were, will no doubt provide you with a solid foundation for future changes to come. I still believe, however, traditional programming, as it were, will be around for many years to come. So, keep yourself agile and moving forward across this forever-changing landscape of technological innovation. It's a very exciting time indeed. One thing I've always loved about programming and technology is that it empowers human creativity. So, use AI to further empower your creativity. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please check out the links included below in the description for free video courses and tutorials that can help you on your way to becoming a highly employable C# developer in 2025. If you liked this video, please hit that like button. If you haven't yet subscribed, please consider subscribing to the channel. And please don't forget to ring the bell. Please share this video with anyone you feel may benefit from its content. If you'd like to thank me by buying me a coffee, you can do that through my Buy Me a Coffee webpage at this URL. It will of course be greatly appreciated. I love reading your comments, so please feel free to engage with me in the comments section. What do you think are the most important skill sets to learn in C# programming or programming in general as we move forward into 2025? All comments are of course welcome. Your insights are always greatly appreciated. It would be great if you followed me on X. My username is @GavinLonDigital. I hope to see you soon. Thank you, and take care.